Cool, so this is the NWC Show, episode 25, and if you'd like to introduce yourself.
How you doing? My name is the natural Craig Anthony.
Best intro yet, man. Just simple, sweet. Everybody always stumbles over the intro. They're always like, I'm a wrestler, or like I'm podcast YouTuber, and I'm like, just make it simple.
You usually get like Simon Cassidy there to introduce you and big you up, make you sound good. So whenever you're left to do it yourself, you're like, my name's Craig. I'm a Jim.
So the way we always start the podcast is the same question: is what got you into wrestling? What's the moment you watched wrestling, like you saw it and you were like, this is my gig, I need to do this?
Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan, man. So basically I'm the youngest of five brothers. So growing up, I was literally like VHS hand-me-downs, man, like all their tapes. So I think it was like, I can't remember what WrestleMania that was, like, but I remember having, we had behind the TV, we had like a kind of like a little indent in the wall, and it was basically just all VHSs, and it was like basically Disney and wrestling, man. So like, you know, that old like WWE like or WWF like home vision like videos, it was all them, man. So I had like WrestleMania 3 and SummerSlam and all that, and I remember like if you opened it up too much, like the sleeve and stuff would like come out of the tape. Like I used to like just read those and like stick them in and like watch them when I was a wee guy. So all my kind of brothers, older brothers, kind of hand-me-downs, man. And I just always remember the Warrior, man, like just running to the ring and like shaking the ropes. And I was like, this is fantastic. I need to watch this. So I started watching that, and then from there, basically it was like, in real time, it was like the Attitude Era was just kicking off, man. Like, so that was my kind of entry level, and then I started watching it on my own, and it was the Attitude Era, Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, all that.
I think we probably got in about the same time. It was just kind of that start of Attitude Era, and Stone Cold doing his stuff. And I just remember being in primary school, and like this, it was just insane at that time.
Oh, absolutely, man! Like, Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was the man. He was my guy, man. Like, round about that time in primary school, it was like you're either The Rock or you're Austin. That was the kind of thing. I was always Stone Cold. He was always like, the Rock had the part and all that, and he was funny, but Austin was just a badass, man, wasn't he? Like, running to the ring, drinking a few beers, stunning everybody. Like, that hooked me, man. That hooked me. Like, he'd play wrestling in the playground and stuff like that, man. And I was just sold from then on in. I remember one time as well, actually, my mum, like, we had this old garage at my house, right? And it was like a pure banger. Like, we got it knocked in years before, but like the bottom panel of it was like missing, right? So it was like the door, and the top panel was there and the bottom one was missing. And it had a plank along it, so it was kind of like a middle rope. So like I would step through that, and then that would be where we would wrestle. And I get sellotape. And I wrote WWF and sellotape on the fucking. Oh, sorry, I like to swear.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Swear
I wrote it on the garage in sellotape, and my mum didn't notice for like weeks. I don't know how, but she didn't notice. Then she eventually noticed. She got me to take it off. But when I took it off, I took all the paint with me, so it was then just permanently there until my dad had to like paint over it, man. So I was always getting into trouble and breaking bones. My brother Chris, he gave me the big grill press, dropped me, broke my collarbone, first wrestling injury when I was about 8 or something like that, man. So.
Man, I always loved, when you look back at that time, I was a Stone Cold guy as well. Like, everybody loved The Rock in my school, and I was like, no, Stone Cold. And then my last name's Kane, so I always got made to go Kane, do a choke slam. I'm not a tall guy. I'm like, these other people are taller than me. Why am I choke slamming them? But it's always, don't try this at home. And it was the first thing you went and like, don't try this at home. It was like, okay, Saturday we're going to go play wrestling with my friends. Like,
yeah, man, absolutely.
They could have just said try this at home. It's pretty much what we all done.
I know, man. I know. The amount of times, man, like you'd be upstairs like wrestling, and you just hear for the living room, my mum screeching, man, stop banging upstairs and wrestling and all this. And I'm like, well, no, I can hear you. So,
always like the Royal Rumble in the bed, like if you're in your friend's house or something. It's like you're on the bed and you have to try and get them off the bed, and you just hear thud, and then my mum walking up the stairs, and you're like, oh shit, should have done that.
Absolutely, man. I know. There's always like you come running down the stairs greeting, and mum's like, I told you. We had bunk beds, because obviously I was 5 of us, like I was saying. I think at one point we all lived in the house, and then that was my oldest brother went off to uni, blah blah. So I think there was like 4 of us at the time, and we had like 2 bunk beds in one room, and then a single in the other. So the 2 bunk beds at one point was like a steel cage, so you had to climb up over the bunk bed and down the other side to get out. And I remember once I was getting out. My brother Barry, I used to play wrestling a lot with him, man, and he would never let me win. He would like shoot pin me, man, and not let me kick out. So he was like the house champ. We would make we'd get cardboard and like make the belts and like thread like an actual belt through it and all that. And I remember one time I was like, fuck this, man, I'm climbing over. So I was like genuinely trying to scramble over the bunk bed, man, to win the house title. And he grabbed just as I was going over, man, he grabbed my head and tried to pull me forward. And as he pulled me forward, man, my nose just smashed the bunk bed, busted open everywhere, man. So we were always getting into trouble for, like, as you can imagine, 5 boys in a house, like, causing chaos, man.
Man, my first wrestling injury was I was playing wrestling, but it was on bunk beds, and we were doing quite similar, trying to climb over it, and I, for some reason, thought I was Jeff Hardy. I tried to jump over it, but I just slipped off the top of it. My feet landed that way, and I broke all my toes. I stood up and I walked back to my house like pure crying. I was a kid, obviously. I walked in, and that way, like when you've really hurt yourself, you just kind of you do that, like
yeah, and it's your fury, man. Yeah,
I kicked like the TV stand with my feet, forgetting that I just broke my toes, and then I was the worst pain I've been in.
Bloody hell, man, I know.
When I was a kid, I just remember screaming, "Take me to hospital!" And the guy was like, "How did you manage this?" And I was like, "I just fell." My mum was like, "If you say you've done wrestling, I'm going to batter you." So I was like, "Oh, I fell. I just."
Vince McMahon at the Royal Rumble, pure no selling it. Like, no, I'm fine. Pure legs and bits. That was when my brother broke my collarbone. It was the same thing, man. Like, it happened. Boom, he gave me the gorilla press. Landed on my side, so my bone just went. Was popped, man, and he was like, don't tell your mum, don't tell my dad, blah blah blah. So I was like, okay, I won't say anything that. So I pure like no sold it, and then I went to bed that night, man, and my shoulder is throbbing, and I'm pure like in bed crying. My dad comes in to check just before he's going to bed, and he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, my shoulder's sore. He's like, for fuck's sake. So takes me to hospital, man, broken collarbone, and I'm trying to like no sell it and not get my brother into trouble, man. Do you know what I mean?
Just sitting there waiting for it to heal itself. It'll go away in the morning. So, how long have you been in the wrestling business? How long have you been training and stuff like
that? I think this is, if my maths is correct, I think it's year 3/4, 3 getting into 4 or something like that. I started training in 2017. I'm sure. So started training at Source. Wrestling school, trained for just about a year, just under a year, and then made my debut 3rd of March the following year, 2018 it would have been. So this is March, so I've been in for 4 years, I think, actually been wrestling for 3, and then 2 and a bit / pandemic wrestling, man. So obviously last year was a bit of a write-off for that.
I think everybody's just taking last year back. So when this started, I was 28. I turned 29 in June, and I'm going to be 30 this year. And I'm like, no, I'm 29. Like I need to do this again.
I said the exact same thing to my missus today. I was like, nah, last year doesn't count, man. I'm still in my 20s. You know what I mean?
I'm holding on to that denial. I've lost the hair. I need to let the 20s stay, but I can't. I'm not letting that go. But I was like, no, the pandemic's obviously just threw everything away for everybody. And what's it been like for yourself wrestling during the pandemic? Has it been weird? Like nobody's been there? Is it?
It's a funny one, right? I'm in a kind of like me and obviously the other boys who've been wrestling at ICW and obviously like down south people are doing Progress and whatnot, and we're in a kind of different situation from people who maybe who haven't been doing the tapings or doing wrestling elsewhere kind of thing. So it's obviously the bigger picture obviously is the pandemic, people's health and all that blah blah, but it obviously does get to a point where you're getting frustrated and fed up and you're not being able to do the things you love or go to the pub, or like I just started doing gymnastics and stuff last year as well, like actually going to gymnastics stuff, so I wasn't being able to do that, wasn't able to wrestle, so it got to a point where they were just a bit fed up and all that. But then once we got the go ahead to do tapings for ICW, oh mate, it was what a buzz, man. And obviously without a crowd being there, it's weird. But for myself and a couple of the other younger guys and people who are kind of breaking through into ICW just now, it kind of has been a little bit of a blessing in disguise, because obviously ICW crowds are kind of different. It's an over 18s. It's a very loyal kind of hardcore fan base. So to kind of get yourself over, get your character over, or present yourself to that audience without them being there, I think it's been a good thing, especially on new guys that they won't know as much. Because when we do get crowds back and go out, people will know who we are, or will have seen us at least. Do you know what I mean? So it's been good, and it's also been great in terms of working. Because most places you're going to work here in Scotland or the UK, it's not going to be for TV. Do you know what I mean? So it's been great experience doing wrestling for TV, working for camera angles and talking to the camera guys and the whole production side of it kind of thing, and like doing promos and hitting your marks and filming backstage segments. So in terms of that, it's been invaluable, really, and maybe an opportunity that myself and maybe a couple of other guys wouldn't have got, not necessarily wouldn't have got, but wouldn't have been as at the forefront of it as much. Do you know what I mean? So it's really been a blessing in disguise for myself and guys like me, and being able to actually just get back to it and kind of show a wider kind of audience what I can do and like kind of what I'm all about and who I am and stuff has been great. Do you know what I mean? And it's been really well received, and kind of churning out kind of new talent there at ICW has been great. I think they're doing a really good job at that, introducing new, fresher people. Because like you look at guys, I was listening to another podcast the other week, and like guys who are like the first kind of iteration of ICW, like are kind of still there now. Do you know what I mean? So they've been there for like 10 plus years. So it's now like a kind of new, fresh resurgence and a new injection of kind of talent and youth in there is great, I think. And that's obviously what you need if you want to kind of build a company further and stuff. So, and then look to plan to the future. So it's been great, man. I've been loving it, doing the tapings. I did, obviously, we got back to training for a little bit, but then the restrictions kind of came in and messed that up for us as well. But that was great because you love just getting in and mixing up with the boys, like and like the banter as well, and just having a laugh. Like you missed that as well. Do you know what I mean? And one thing like you kind of probably took for granted before was just backstage at the shows, man. That was amazing. Like banter with the lads, kind of catching a match here or there, and do you know what I mean? That's what you miss as well. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think it's been such a weird time for everybody as well. Where obviously any kind of performance stuff, it's just kind of everybody's like, we need to get back to it. For me, I'm self-employed, so the reason I started this channel is I wasn't sitting with my kids for the past year. I was like, I need to get something. I'm really itching to get back to stuff, and then starting the podcast, I was like, I need to speak to other people about wrestling instead of just myself talking to a camera. Like it gets a bit weird after a while, so I was like, I need to talk to other people. But what's it like you kind of seeing yourself on like the network and stuff like that? So for me, I was on the Thunderdome thing for the main event, I think it was, and I was like, oh, every time somebody comes in, I'm like, look, I was on the network. I know I left wrestling like years ago when I broke my neck, but I made it to the network.
I know.
What is it?
So, 2 seconds, man. Sorry.
I
don't know if you edit this or whatever, but my missus literally just come up and text me. Like, she's stuck in the toilet. The door just broke off.
That's totally fine, man.
So I'm gonna go have to let her out, but back in 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. There you go. I'm going to tell me to leave that in. All right, mate. Sorry about that. Just had to let the missus out.
It's fine, man. We don't edit or anything like that. Keep everything in, cool, so it's all right.
So she can be embarrassed.
So, how do you find yourself being on the network, Dave? You got it on when you're then, like, well, people I don't know if people can still come round on the I don't know, whatever it
is. Mate, I love. They're not supposed to like nudge and all that, but no, it's like and the thing is as well, right? Like it's funny because like obviously like your online persona and that like for me anyway, like my Twitter and my personal Facebook kind of thing is just like me. All I really do is watch dog videos and wrestling videos, man. That's what I do. Like, that's what makes me happy, man. So that's but my other stuff like my Instagram, my Twitter. That's pretty much my wrestling. That's what I portray on that. It's like rather than any kind of more personal stuff. So for me, man, the kind of the weirdest thing was when like the WWE network like shared a picture of like me, and it was just because that's what I'm talking about the socials now. Because you want to portray an image, but like at the end of the day, we're all wrestling fans, right? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm a big Mark, and I have been since I was a kid. Do you know what I mean? So like to see that was like that was the moment. It was a couple of weeks ago. I think it was the match I had with Stevie, from the Purge, and it just so happened that it was my picture that they shared to promote it because they promote obviously that and Progress and whatever. There's another show in it, WXW I think, in Germany, the indies that they have on there, and it was mine, and I was blown away, man. I was like, this is so cool. I pure like screenshotted it, sent it into like a couple of my WhatsApp groups of the boys, and I was like, this is like even though it might just be some guy that handles the Twitter handle and like and does the social media, do you know what I mean? But it is WWE Network posting a picture of me advertising my match. And I used to watch this and idolize these guys, and now you never think that's going to happen. Like when I started training, like I was happy just to like there's goals in it. Like I was happy to debut, then I was happy to like have a match, then I was happy to main event a match, but you never think things like WWE promoting a Twitter post. So that was like a kind of moment I had to kind of step back and just go, wow, that's fucking cool, man. That is cool, and I don't care that I'm a big Mark, man. That's awesome, and it's a big deal, man. Like even if like I say, it's just some guy like doing the socials on his phone or whatever, but it's cool to me, man, and it's just kind of unbelievable. Like you can search my name into WWE Network and my matches will pop up. That's incredible, man. Really cool, man.
Man, I would have it on 24/7. I'd be like, because I keep sharing that screenshot of me in the Thunderdome thing. I'm like, I stayed up late for this. Like, I know, like I said, I know I left wrestling ages ago. I sent it to the guys that I used to wrestle with, and they're like, it's not like something you can achieve. It's free. It's an achievement for me. I was up till like 2 a.m. to get that.
I'm on WWE TV, mate. What are you talking about? Well, do you know what's funny? Same thing. Like a couple, like when Raw and SmackDown were at was it the Hydro? SECC? Hydro? Was it Hydro?
Yeah, I think it was. I'm terrible with places, man. So.
I think it was it was the Hydro a couple of years ago, and that was before I even started training. And so I'm an actor as well, right? Talking about like everything shut down. Like I'm an actor. I was literally I just finished doing a panto in London. Come back up here. I'd done a play. We finished the play on the Tuesday, and by the Friday, lockdown, man. So I was like self-employed with that. So that's obviously my job kind of out the window in the whole entertainment industry, like obviously wrestling's included in that, similar thing. So but I had a guy that I know panto with a few years before, he done panto at the SECC, so he knew a guy who worked there, so he's like, I can get you tickets four rows from the front for Raw and SmackDown. So he messaged me because he knew I was a big fan. He's like, I can get tickets, man. It was third row if you want it. So I absolutely got him at a kind of decent wee price. So I was there, third row. AJ Styles was doing like commentary for a match, and he was sitting there with the championship. But from me to this camera away, man, this is so cool. And I got on the TV as well, obviously, because the camera's there, and I was right behind the commentary side. So I was like sharing that before I started wrestling, like pure same as you, like buzzing, like I'm just me sitting here on Raw, man. Like, do you know what I mean, in the fourth row. And then fast forward like 4 years later, and I'm literally on the network as a wrestler. It's mind blowing, mate. It's honestly mind blowing to me, but it's literally my childhood dream, like living it. I was saying that I was down visiting my parents today, man, and I was saying, like, I remember my mum went to New York for a trip with her work, and I made her search like all night. She literally found WWE New York at 12 o'clock at midnight just to go and buy me these figures that you couldn't get anywhere else, but I made her walk around New York to find this place. That's what I was saying. It's like, see all that, and see, like, I dressed up as Stone Cold for Halloween when I was in primary school, and I won best dress. I was like, see all that? See, that led to this. That led to me getting here, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's mental to think that I'm like, I can be viewed on the network and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's class.
I know, man. I think it's so cool seeing some of the guys like for ICW that have worked so hard, and especially for Scottish wrestling. So when I first started training, I was like 13 or something, and it was in Linwood, in the middle of, if you know where Linwood is, it's literally like an industrial estate and a couple of flats, and it was just a garage with like the big door open. And the first time I turned up on a Sunday, and the guy, it was like 12 new people, and he was like, "All right, just go for a run." Everybody else was like went home. And I didn't have anything else to do that day, so I just stayed and keep running. And he came out and he was like, "I honestly thought you were away home, man. I'm really sorry." It was back at the SWA, I think it used to be. There used to be work with him, but it was like just in the middle of nowhere. There was no changing rooms. There was like one little toilet was broke, no toilet roll. And you're just...
Is that the one, like the pure, I think Grado, is that the one Grado talks about?
I don't know what it might be, but
is that a post office? No, I don't know.
No, it was literally just in an industrial street, nowhere. Like, it was like 1.5 hours of Glasgow, in the middle of nowhere. You had to get a bus there, like a 14-year-old in a bus going out in the middle of nowhere just to get through around in the middle of a garage by these big, scary-looking Scottish wrestlers. But
then they left you aside and forgot about you.
It was fun. I went back every week. So sometimes I'm like, why did I used to pay for that? Like a child paying to go like get leathered so like hours every Sunday. I'm like, why did I pay for that? But it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Class. Mate, I remember the first, like, my first day of training as well. So I trained at Source, and I think it's 22 Cogan Road. I'm pretty sure is the address, right? So I'd never been before, and at this point I didn't drive, so I just like Googled 22 Cogan Road. I was like, perfect. Got the train there in plenty of time. Walked to 22 Cogan Road, and it was just like a set of flats, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is not the place. So I'm like, pure Google. There's literally 2 Cogan Roads, and they're both in the south side, but one is like, but they're like totally separate. So I was like, fuck, I went to the wrong fucking street. So, and I no word of a lie, luckily a taxi swung around the corner, right? And this lassie got it, short skirt and that on. She'd obviously not been home the night out before, right? And she comes staggering at the taxi and like staggers back into like a flat, man. So luckily she didn't make AM that night, because I was like to the taxi driver, mate, you got a fare? And he's like, no. I was like, brilliant. Can you take me to 22 Cogan Street on the other side, the south side? He's like, all right, then jump in. So I eventually got there like bang on time, man. And then that's it. The rest is history, man. Like you say, even just like stepping through the ropes for the first time into a ring was cool to me. Do you know what I mean? So if that lassie hadn't had a night out, then I might not have started my training.
Man, I think
wouldn't be happening.
The first time you go to training, the first time you go inside there, it's even though you know it's like a work and stuff like that, you're like, this is a little bit weird, and then like the way they start teaching, everybody's kind of weird with you to start with. No weird, but it's like just that kind of any gym, like martial arts gym, or anything you go to, it's always that like suss the new guy out. But
especially as well, because like if like wrestling has a lot of old school kind of quote unquote rules or whatever, like they obviously. Old school people, it's like drilled into them and stuff like kayfabe and like handshakes and all this and blah blah. Do you know what I mean? So if you're a bit kind of clued up on that, you're a bit on edge to make sure you're doing everything right, because you don't want to get fucking blackballed before you've even done anything, because you don't know if you're doing something wrong or doing something right, and like handshakes and how hard you're shaking a hand and this and that. Do you know what I mean? So if you know all that kind of insider stuff, then for me anyway, I was always a bit like, I don't want to piss anybody off and all that. Do you know what I mean?
I know. I think it's such a weird like thing. Like people don't get it unless you've done like martial arts or like wrestling. It's like you can be, like you said, you're an actor, which must be mind-boggling for you right now. You're like, what do I do? Like, just like, can I go act? Can I wrestle? What do I do? Well, I can wrestle, but it's like when you first step in that when you go into the gym for the first time, it's like, what do I do? Who do I talk to? Like, if you don't want to make an arse to yourself. So the first time I ever went to, so I trained at the Grip House, which is like one of the most famous MMA gyms in Glasgow, and it's like in a close, which is, if you ever done like a Muay Thai class or a couple of hours up there and you try and get down those stairs, oh Jesus. But first time I went in, I went up to this guy in jiu-jitsu and I was like, oh man, it's first time here, blah blah blah, because you're standing in the middle of the mat, and then he was like, just take a seat, man. And then the actual guy teaching the class coming in, called Paul McVeigh, he walked in and the guy in the middle of the mat was just like, I don't know why you asked me, man, I'm just standing here putting my belt on. I was like, fucking so embarrassing. It was the same with like wrestling. I turned up and I was like, is there any way to get changed? And the first thing the guy says was, look at this posh guy wanting to get changed in that place. And I was like, I was just, didn't know if I had to get my stuff off in front of everybody, and but he was like, no, just in that corner there. And I was all right.
We're joking, eh?
It's a 14-year-old, bro. I never asked a question for like 6 weeks after that. I'm not judging what anyone's going to say.
I was going to take the bumps, man, and do what they tell me.
So obviously you were talking about goals and stuff. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you see yourself in WWE actually on like the main roster and NXT UK, NXT, or what do you see? So,
I mean, that is the kind of the obvious route. Like that's if you've not got that in mind, or a major company, whether it be WWE or Ring of Honor, New Japan,
AEW, shout on other guys out as well.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like for me, man, like I really don't doubt my ability and my hard work and my dedication to it. So, like, absolutely, I see myself being with a major company or working all over the world and like making a career out of this. Do you know what I mean? 100%. Like, and when I first, even like going back to before we start training and stuff, like I was always in my head. I kind of knew I was like, I'm going to be good at this, and I just kind of like. Because I was such a fan, man, like I would watch it meticulously. Like I remember, like when you'd play with guys in the street and you'd play wrestling and they'd like, choke slam, or they'd call something, they're doing this, and you're like, that's not how you fucking do it. And it would annoy me. I was like, that's not right. That's not fucking right. So I just knew I was confident I'd be good at it, and it turned out I was pretty decent. So, I like WWE, like UK, I think is like the kind of route for me. I think that's where I see myself. That's where I'd want to go, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And then, obviously, after that, see what happens. Obviously, like you say, people paved the way before guys like myself and made opportunities like that available. So you look at the guys that are there now that have came from Scotland, like, you know, the Coffey Brothers, Wolfgang, Kaylee Ray. Do you know what I mean? And they're like killing it, man, like absolutely smashing it. Like Shawn Michaels and stuff is down there coaching and speaks so highly of all these people. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that would never have been possible before without like the kind of without your ICWs and without guys like that. So I like that's where I see myself. Obviously, I'd love to work just everywhere I can, man. Like all over. I want to travel and do it and just get seen and put my shit out there, man. And because I love it, mate. I fucking love it, and I just want to show people what I can fucking do.
Man, it's quite refreshing. I've had a few people on and not to put anybody under the bus or anything. I'm not naming names, but they're like, oh, I don't know if I would go to WWE, and like I don't know where I want to be. And I'm like, anything I do, like I'm mega competitive and goal driven. Like you might be faster than me at running, but a story just out of nowhere, like I would literally just die to not get bet. So I was playing What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, if you know that game with my kid during the first lockdown. We weren't allowed out and stuff, so I was doing it in the house, and she nearly killed me, and I don't like it. So I jump over the couch and I tore my calf muscle. So that was my first couple of months in lockdown. That's how competitive I'm. Like it's a 4-year-old. I don't. My
She's not getting
fiance's
away,
like,
man.
my fiance's like, you don't need to be that competitive, and I was like, well, she needs to learn that I was faster.
Life is hard, alright. She needs to learn these lessons early.
I'm screaming on the ground, like then it was like all the bruising and stuff. Couldn't walk right for weeks, and
Mate.
I felt bad, but
she got the last laugh there, didn't she?
Aye, but she needs to learn her still. No, but like I don't get when people just don't have like that goal driven stuff. Like everything I try and do is like have a goal about something like business, and maybe it's just type of person more like obviously you said you're self-employed and stuff as well. It's like you kind of always need to have a goal, otherwise you've got no direction where to go.
Totally, man. And the thing is, like everybody who gets into this business obviously has been a fan before. I think, especially here, like gone are the days. Well, I suppose the WWE still sign athletes and stuff and things like that, but most of the British people have been British wrestlers have been fans before. Do you know what I mean? So, definitely, like I don't see anybody who starts this who wouldn't want to be in the big leagues. Do you know what I mean? That like. I'm sure there are some people who are like just happy to be wrestling and do that and blah blah, but like, man, I want to be the best that I can be at this. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to say I'm going to be the world's greatest, but I'm definitely going to be the best me, the best Craig Anthony. And the way that I do that is working with top people, top guys, top companies. Iron sharpens iron, man. I always say it. Like I want to work with the best to get better, and I want to. I want to be a name that people go, he's fucking good, man. He's great. Do you know what I mean?
I don't get why people just don't have that thing. Like even for me doing this, like a network with people. I talk to guys that I know that work for WWE that are writers and stuff like that, and I'm like, so what would you do to like get this more seen? Would you like write? Because I'm terrible at reading scripts. Like if they always tell me to write this out before it, and I'm like, I won't remember it at all. And they're like, just put it in front of you. You can read it. I'm like, but then I get confused. I'm like, do I look there or down there? So. But,
and then you're like, oh, I missed that bit. I need to jump back, or where am I in the script and all that.
I do. Acting isn't for me either, man. That's the what I remember and stuff. I'm like, nah. I was improv when I done drama on school. Like I was a guy who just went out there, hit it out the park, and they'd be like, "How did you do that?" And I was, go sit down.
Comes natural, mate. The natural.
But no, man, it is really refreshing to kind of see. Obviously, you're a fan before, then now you like I would want to be if I was still wrestling. I always wanted to be in WWE when I was doing it. It was like that's the place, the biggest. Well, at that time, it was the only biggest company in the world. I was like, well, I want to be in the best place, make the most amount of money, obviously, and make a living with it, which annoys me when people don't do it.
I think it's like now like NXT UK, like there's roads to get there where there wasn't before. Do you know what I mean? And you're making a living doing wrestling. Do you know what I mean? And they're giving opportunities to guys and girls in this country. That's fantastic. It's amazing. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a brilliant thing, man.
So it's been quite positive so far. So we'll go to the negative part. What's something that you don't like about the wrestling world's like communities thing? What's something you don't like about the wrestling world at the minute?
Right now, that we can't do more of it. That we've not got live crowds. But like what I suppose what annoys me, man. What annoys me? I think just like ironically, negativity. I think, like you say, talking to me, you can get an idea that I'm a positive guy, man. Glass half full kind of guy, always have been.
Man, can I interrupt you for 2 wee seconds? I need to go give this phone to my partner or dad's trying to phone me, so I'll be 2 seconds, man. Sorry about that, man.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
He was asking if she's still in work and stuff, and it was like 5 missed calls. I was like, oh, Jesus, I better go. Sorry, what were you saying?
I know, negativity, man. It drives me insane. Like, I don't get it, man. Like, I get sometimes you need to get shit off your chest, you need to have a rant or whatever, blah, blah. But, like all forms of negativity, like, Twitter can be a fucking cesspool, man. A fucking cesspool. Like, of just people being negative about shit and like shitting on things, people, companies, angles, storylines, whatever. Like, fair dues, you're entitled to your opinion and all that, and that's cool. If you don't like something, fair dues. But like, it's you can see, like, obviously there's trolls, which is different. But like sometimes you just scroll through comment sections and you're like, what joy are you getting from like just shitting all over somebody, or what joy is missing from your life that you just need to be negative about something? Why can't you, instead of posting something negative that you don't need to do, different from giving your opinion about something, rather than why don't you channel that energy and use it to talk about something that you do like, that is positive, that can then further your enjoyment of your viewing, or that can give an opinion that will improve what you like to watch, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So that I hate just negativity towards things that is unnecessary.
I'm pretty much in the same boat there, man. I think like obviously my whole channel is pretty much, I try and review stuff, do podcasts and stuff like that. But if I'm on negative on something, so if I'm not a big fan of a wrestler, I'll just take it as, okay, I'm going in a review head, not a fan head, and just But I try and be positive, because I don't want somebody to scroll on my page, say like, I'm not a big Nia Jax fan, but somebody might be, and then they go on my page, they click on it, and I'm just berating this woman. I don't want to do that, because it's like, it's a shame for the person that's a fan, and a shame for the wrestler as well.
And that's the thing. It's like I say, like, it can be a catch-22 situation sometimes, because like you say, like, criticising someone for the performance or not like something, it's fair dues. Everyone's entitled to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and obviously people like doing people podcasting, or people who are just fans or whatever, like, that's what they do. That's their job. Do you know what I mean? So like, that's fine. Like, and don't get me wrong. Like, obviously, I'll things that I don't like, I've talked to people like my pals about, but I just don't go on and like post it on fucking Twitter or whatever, blah blah.
No, I get what you mean, man. If you go through Twitter, which is where I normally promote this, like Instagram and stuff like that, and you just see people like, it's insane. Like, so yesterday's podcast, obviously we're filming this Tuesday, but this will be Wednesday, this goes up. But on Tuesday I had Sabu going up, and people are already telling me, oh, you look too bald. Why did you post it at 6 o'clock? And I'm like, well, I recorded it, right? I enjoyed it. I'm doing this to chat to people. I'm not doing this to like, if somebody enjoys the conversation, that's cool, but I'm just kind of ready to chat for it. But on like Twitter, it's just, sometimes it's like, calmed out, like with AEW NXT, when they just, if you go in on a Thursday morning, type in AEW and NXT, it's just so fun to watch. I like going in and reading them, because it's like, why are you so angry about wrestling? It's so fun. Like, there's so much wrestling just now, and you're just like moaning. So
watch what you like, don't watch what you don't like. You know what I mean?
Do you know, every Scottish person I've had on here, that's their attitude. It's like, if you don't like it, don't watch it. But then you get other people, and it's always like, oh, well, I don't like it, and you know what I'm saying.
But like I was saying, that is a catch-22, because people are entitled to their opinions. You know what I mean? So that's what it is, man. Just got to. So, I just keep scrolling past, man. Like, fuck that.
So flipping that, or taking the negative part away from it, what's something that you find positive, or you love about wrestling today?
What do I love about wrestling today, man? I love the variety, man, that it has. Like, there's so much out there now, like with the introduction of AEW. Like, there's something for everybody. Like, if you're New Japan, like, I love New Japan. I love the kind of strong style. I love all that stuff. And then obviously you've got your WWE main roster, which is kind of obviously geared towards a kind of younger demographic audience. Then you've got AEW, which is like the kind of cool wrestling thing and all that. And then all your kind of obviously independents here in this country and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so much, which is great, because obviously like there was a pure dead period here in British wrestling until the kind of boom happened. So the fact that there's like so much to watch, there's so many opportunities, and I think, I just love that it's not something that before, man. It was when I was younger, it was like American. Like, you watch WWE, and they never, like, very rarely came here to this country, but now it's like so accessible to everybody, and obviously streaming services and all that. Like, that for me, that's amazing. Like, it's so readily available for everybody.
I think the exact same, man. Like, when growing up, probably like during about the same time, there was like nothing. Like, there was just like, it was America had the wrestling, and you didn't really know about Japan and stuff, because you were like that little bit too young. It was back we were talking about VHSs at the start of this, so people can judge how long Google was. But it was like, when they come here, and then when they did, you would never get tickets. It was always sold out, and you're like, why can you? I used to remember being on, like, to my mum, like, can you get tickets for this? And I would draw posters and stuff like that. Be set that I was going, and she would. Never once did she manage to get them, and I would just sit with my posters on the night, staring at them, and she just, I can't stand looking at you. So she eventually took me to America to go to a Raw, which was pretty cool. But it was just, I remember sitting there with it, like, as a kid, you're just staring at them. It's like looking at the Argos catalogue. You're just sitting there staring at them, like, oh, I just want to go, get that feeling. But no, it was weird when we were growing up. It was just America.
I remember. Do you remember, like, was it like a magazine that was like a catalogue thing, and like, was it like Jack, and it was all like the Jack specific stuff, like the toys and the merch and all that, and you could like order it. I remember I used to just like the Argos catalogue, man, just like look at that and go, I fucking want that shit, man. But it was like, you couldn't get it here, you had to order it to get it sent over, man.
Yeah, back then, if people don't know, it was you could send in to get a magazine delivered to you. That was always free, and it was that you check out and it's like shipping's like $100 and stuff like that. Plus, you like obviously customs. Your mum's like, nah, I'm not doing that. You're like, I can just look at these pictures. It'll be okay.
I'll just pretend now he's not having.
So, obviously, we'll head into the kind of home stretch of the podcast here. Now, these are three questions that everybody loves. The one at the very end is one that either you'll hit out straight away, or you'll ask this to everybody. So this one you'll either say straight away, or you'll sit and go, like that. So it's quite fun. So the first one is, who's your favourite wrestler of all time? Who would you be like, that's my guy?
Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Close runners up, Shawn Michaels, best to ever do it. Modern day, I think AJ Styles is just different class, man. But Stone Cold's my guy. Always has been.
For me, it would be Sting, because that was my moment when he was on Channel 5 Nitro, face paint coming in, and I was like, yeah, man, that's my guy. But Austin's up there as well. You've got but I would say AJ just now is insane, and he's been insane for so long. Like, he's literally. Oh
my god, man! Do you know what the funny thing is as well, right? I never watched TNA. I pure missed it, right? So see now going like, it was like, when he was doing his like indies and like jumping to New Japan and then going to ROH and things like that, like that's where I caught on to him. I was like, hold on a minute. So I went back and watched all that stuff, man. I was like, this guy, obviously, pardon the pun, is fucking phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? He's just so good, like so good, and he can do everything, man. Do you know what I mean?
It's so weird as well, because he was in WCW for a little bit. I only found this out the other day when I was going through the network, and he popped up, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know he was in this. And then like, he's literally had a wrestling career most of my life. Like, it's so weird. But his TNA stuff, man, I loved that. Like, that's when I felt him and Samoa Joe and Chris Daniels and stuff like that, man. So weird story is, there was a girl in my year that had a crush on. She had a jotter with AJ Styles on it, and I was kidding on that I knew who he was. I was like, I know who that guy was. And I remember seeing like the AJ, so I went back home, Google like AJ Styles, who's this, and it was just all these matches, and I fell in love with the guy since then. Never spoke to the girl again, but she's the person that made me. Thank you to her for putting you on to AJ, man. Cannot remember her name, nothing. Like, I was just, but she got that for me. And what's one of your favourite events of all time? What's an event you'd be like, you need to watch this?
Pure shite answer, probably, but like WrestleMania 17, Rock Austin, TLC match. I mean, like, off the top of my head, that one, class, absolutely class. Just to kind of, everybody says that one, so I know, man, right? Do you know what? I'll give you like a pure, it's probably a shit pay-per-view, right? But I'll give you, because I was talking to, Alexander Darwin McCallum, ADM. We trained together at Source and stuff. So he's like a pal of mine. But we were chatting the other night, and we were talking about like kind of promo vid and hype vids and all that. Cause I love that stuff, like the pure Creed My Sacrifice and all that. And I was pure YouTube when I was a wee guy and that. But there's talking about VHS, right? My granny, I used to stay at my granny's quite often, and every time we'd go past like Woolworths, which ages me again. I'd be like, can we go in and like look at the toys or look at the videos? And I remember buying there was a WWF video, and I bought it. I got her to buy it, and it was an In Your House. It was Breakdown In Your House, and it was like the first VHS tape that I had bought that wasn't like the pure golden area of my brother's. Do you know what I mean? And it probably wasn't a great pay-per-view, but it will never ever die in my heart and in my mind. Like the main event, right? And the hype video for the start of it, the intro was phenomenal, right? It's the main event is Stone Cold versus, it's a handicap match, Stone Cold versus Undertaker and Kane for the WWF Championship. Like also when he had the smoke skull and that. And Vince McMahon is like the hype video at the start is like the master plan. He's like, I'm damn sick and tired of watching you walk around with that WWF title. I have developed a master plan. And it's like the Brothers of Destruction are going to like beat him, and it's like he's forbid so it's a triple threat, but he's forbid Undertaker to pin Kane and Kane to pin Undertaker. And the hype video for that is dynamite, man. It is so good. And at the end, they both pin Austin, and then Vince McMahon steals the title and runs away. And at the last shot is Vince at the top of the ramp in the limo, giving him the finger with the belt, and Austin's at the bottom of the ramp, and he speeds off. Fucking class, man. And I think like Owen Hart was on it as well. It was a triple threat cage match with Ken Shamrock, Mankind, and The Rock in the blue cage, like the old school blue cage. New Age Outlaws were fighting. I think X-Pac got hit with a chair by Jeff Jarrett at the end. This is what I can remember from it. In my head, it was fucking great, and I loved it. But I can't remember if it actually was a decent pay-per-view. but the hype video for the main event was fucking class, man. So YouTube that. Breakdown in your house intro.
Definitely will, man. I normally say WrestleMania 17 as well, because that's like the one everybody goes to, but you've brought back a few memories as VHS-wise, obviously aging and stuff like that. It was at the Forge was the only place near me that sold VHS, which I got 3, King of the Ring 99, and then 2 WCW ones. It was Spring Break, can't remember what it's called, and Bash at the Beach, and it was King of the Ring. I went home, put it in, and it was I just remember being like, this is the best pay-per-view ever. Now, if you go back and watch it, it's literally not the best pay-per-view ever, but it was that ladder match at the end between Austin, Shane, and Vince that just like, the build up to that, the kind of Austin with a tie on, him being like the CEO, and you're talking about like the vignettes and promo vids and stuff. All that stuff was just insane. Like the cow manure pouring beer on it in the office. And I was this is brilliant. I just remember I go back and watch it every couple of years, but I've never watched that main event again. I've just left that in my brain. It's just like this great match as a kid. You don't want to tarnish
what's in here, man, in case you want to go, oh, that's fucking shit, man.
Because I've went like through most of the pay-per-view, and I'm like, this is pretty bad. Like, this isn't as good. Mr. Ass winning and stuff like that, I like that, but like it wasn't that great. And then I'm like, I'm no ruining that gold moment in my brain.
Do you remember, just as you mentioned Billy, like Mr. Ass, like one thing again, like that thing when you're young that just you always remember. Do you remember it was New Age Outlaws and Dudley Boys in a tables match, and Bubba Ray was standing on the table, man, and Billy Gunn leapt in the air and gave him a famouser on the table, like through the table, man. Yeah. See, when I saw it, I was like, that was fucking, what athleticism, man. That was class. Like, I've just got wee bits, like my missus always says, you've got this pure, like, really, you can't remember what happened yesterday, but you've got this vivid memory for weird things, like just sporadically. And I've got loads of stuff like with wrestling about that as well, man.
I get the same, man. She's like, what did we have for dinner yesterday? I'm like, I don't know, food. And then they'll be like, what happened? And like, do you remember? Pick something random or something for something. I'll be like, oh, like 1998, like,
1998 King of the Ring when fucking that happened.
I remember being in school, and then this guy, I was going along the corridor and I pulled his trousers, and she's like, how do you remember this kind of stuff? And then like I asked you what, like, I remember the doctor's appointment. I'm never going to remember. I need to write it down, set an alarm.
I don't know if it's a guy thing or something, but I'm the exact same, man, honestly.
It must be. Maybe it's a Scottish thing.
Maybe.
But so the final question, man, the one that always gets people humming and hawing is, I'll give you the question, I'll tell you what my answer is, and then you can let me know. You can think about it. You don't need to have one straight away, but the question is, if you can add yourself to or replace somebody in any match at any point in history, any event, stuff like that, who would it be? So mine is, I'd replace Owen Hart against Bret Hart, SummerSlam 94, Blue Steel Cage, because that is one of my favourite matches all time.
Mate, I'll tell you something, right? I watched that a wee while ago, because obviously I just did the cage match in ICW, and literally that was my vision. I watched like our vision, not to fucking muddy the kayfabe, no, that blah blah blah, but like that match, man, that's what was in there when I was thinking about our match. Great match. Like what I kind of wanted to get across in our match in the cage. They never let you forget about the gimmick of the match, man. It wasn't like a match inside a steel cage match. It was like they would always go to escape. They'd always go to climb through the door. They never let you forget the fucking gimmick of the match, and they done really original, cool stuff, like the legs through the steel bars, like so that like he couldn't climb over and all that, blah blah. The spot where he nuts him, pulls him off the cage into the ropes and stuff. What a great match!
Plus, you can go back and watch that one. I honestly go back and watch that all the time, and it just seems like a different match. I'm like, how's this so refreshing? Just shows how good both these guys are. But like you said, that's what I say is one of my favourite matches, if not my favourite match of all time, because it's just so cool, and it's like to keep the gimmick in it, characters, story, it's everything works in it.
As well, because obviously like he's the spoiled younger brother kind of thing in it. That's the story in it. It was great, man, great. I've got my match. As soon as you asked that, I kind of knew. I would replace Shawn Michaels in the Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle match at WrestleMania, because I fucking love Angle, man. I think he's fantastic. In his prime, he was just dynamite. That match was fucking class. And the finish of it was beautiful. The way Shawn sold it, and he was going to tap, and he didn't, and he was going to tap, and he was hanging on in the ankle lock forever. Beautiful, man. And he's two really athletic guys, man. And if I was able to replace Shawn and do all the cool shit that he done, man, that would be fucking epic. So I would be Shawn Michaels in that match. It was at WrestleMania 20, I think. Or no, WrestleMania something, I think.
20-something.
20,
Talking about Kurt Angle, I need to say what one of my other ones are. It has to be Taker versus Angle at No Way Out, which is just it's No Way Out 2006 or something like that. It was just insane. It was before he was going to like TNA and stuff, and they just put on like a hell of a match. Like like you said, the one at Mania, like Angle's insane. Like I just every match he does is insane. But
so good, man.
Obviously, we're finished up. So where can people find you? I've got your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and if there's anything else you want me to add in the description, just send it to me and I'll put it in.
Man. No, Twitter and Instagram at CraigR_, and that's at Craig8R_. Facebook, the natural Craig Anthony, and that's it, man. I don't have OnlyFans or anything. So,
obviously, people can get you on the network and stuff like that. People can check you anywhere. I'd say people should go check out the ICW Bard pay-per-view, because your match on that was really fun to watch. The whole show was fun to watch. That's the only company I don't really try and review, because I don't want to spoil it. Because I like to enjoy it as a Scottish person watching Scottish guys do.
Yeah, totally. That's the thing, innit? You've got to have. You can't be doing your job all the time. You have to enjoy it sometimes. You know what I mean? Rather than viewing it with the work eyes.
Yeah. So if you just wait there, I'll end the recording. I'll tell you when this will go up and stuff like that.
Sweet, man.